Chapter 9. Soil. Soil, like air and water, is one of the most important natural resources necessary for life on Earth. Soil supports the growth of plants and trees by holding their roots firmly and by supplying them with water and mineral nutrients. Weathering of rocks is a very slow process. It takes millions of years to break huge rocks into its fine particles to make soil. The process by which huge rocks are broken down into small rock particles by the action of sun's heat. Activity 1. To identify the various constituents of the soil. Things needed: glass tumbler, soil sample, glass rod, water. Method. We take a handful of the soil from the school garden or any other place. Break the clumps with our hand to powder it. We now take a glass tumbler and fill 3/4 of it with water. We add a handful of powdered soil to it. We stir the mixture well with a glass rod and allow it to stand undisturbed for a few hours. Observation. After some time, we observe that the soil separates into different layers on the basis of their particle size. At the bottom of the glass tumbler, we see the layer of gravel. It is the layer of heavier and larger sized particles. Above the layer of gravel, we find the layer of sand. Above the layer of sand, we see fine grains of soil called clay. Between clay and the sand lies a thin layer of silt. Soil profile. A vertical section through the soil showing the different layers of the soil is called the soil profile. Topsoil or A horizon. The uppermost layer of the soil is called topsoil. It is also called A horizon. It is darkest in color as it is rich in humus and minerals. The humus in the topsoil makes the soil fertile. Plants get the essential nutrients from the layer. Subsoil or B horizon. The layer of the soil which is just below the topsoil is called subsoil or B horizon. The subsoil shows the following features. This layer is light in color as it has very little humus or organic matter. This layer is more harder and compact than the topsoil. Substratum or C horizon. The layer of the soil which is just below the subsoil is called substratum, also called C horizon. Bedrocks or D horizon. Just below the substratum is the bedrock or parent rock and also called D horizon. The reservoir of water accumulated is called groundwater. Types of soil. Soil is classified into different types on the basis of the size of the rock particles it contains. Sandy soil. This soil contains a large amount of sand particles, about 70 to 80%, and very small amounts of silt and clay particles. The features of this soil are: sand particles are quite large. They cannot fit closely together, so there are large spaces between them. These spaces are filled with air, so we can say that sandy soil is well aerated. Sand particles have large spaces between them. This makes sandy soil very porous. Water moves rapidly through it and dries quickly. It cannot hold much water. Sandy soil is light. It has a tendency to blow away by the wind if left bare. Clay soil. Clay soil contains mainly clay. It has very little amount of sand and silt in it. It also contains some humus. The features of this soil are clay particles being much smaller, packed lightly together, leaving little space for air. So, clay soil have little air. Clay soil very small and tightly packed clay particles, making is less porous, so it has a very good water holding capacity. Clay soil gets easily waterlogged during the rainy season. Clay soil turns very hard on drying. Loamy soil. Loamy soil contains an equal amount of sand, large particles, and clay, small fine particles. It contains silt and humus also. In other words, loamy soils are the best for growing crops because of the following reasons. Loamy soil has the right water holding capacity necessary for the growth of plants due to the presence of clay. Loamy soil has adequate air spaces between its particles to hold sufficient air needed by plant roots due to presence of sand in it. Loamy soil contains sufficient amount of humus to provide necessary nutrients for the growing plants. Loamy soil can be plowed easily in the crop field. Activity 3. To show that soil contains air. Things needed: beaker, garden soil, glass rod, water. Method. We take some dry garden soil in a beaker. Add water to the beaker and stir the soil and water mixture with a glass rod for a while. Observation. We will see the bubbles coming out of the soil. These bubbles are of the air which was present in the spaces between the soil particles. Actually, when we stir the soil with water, then water enters the spaces between the soil